welcome
to Red, White, and Bi, episode 37.
That's pretty good, man.
I know, our little baby's growing up so fast.
Keep on trucking.
So, state the obvious here. It's America's 250th birthday. Huge deal.
Happy birthday, America.
Happy birthday, America. Something that I've noticed, and I'm sure you have too, like in your travels for work and stuff, Ash, like it seems like some people are using it as an excuse to complain about whether they don't like the president or what's going on in foreign affairs or whatever else is your gripe. They're using like July 4th as like, oh, it's nothing to celebrate. And I think it's important to both of us to remember that that's not what we're doing. It's not about that. It's about the country that we live in. It doesn't matter who's in the Oval Office right now. It doesn't matter who has a majority in Congress. It doesn't matter what's going on abroad. We're here to celebrate our nation. And I think that's something that both sides ought to be able to get together on.
Yeah, and by the way, Margot is celebrating July 4th by standing on both of our shoulders right now with a ball in her mouth. She's very excited.
So it's not just Ash heavy breathing about America. This is our dog right now.
And I do breathe heavily for America. And as cynical as I might get on this show, as angry as I might get, it's because I really do love my country. I consider myself a patriot. I think you're not really a patriot unless you hate it when the government messes things up because you want the best for your country and you expect the best because you believe in the idea of America.
Yeah, and I think that like capital first letters there, the idea of America is such like a powerful subject. You could do like a whole college course on it. You could do a whole episode or even a whole podcast on just that. So no matter what it means to you or how that could be different from what it means to your neighbor or whatever, the fact that we all have our own idea about that, I think is so beautiful and so cool, and that's worth celebrating. And I think that's something that 250 years ago, that's what the forefathers were trying to create for us, and they did. And to Ash's point, no matter what you do or don't like right now, I think it's important to focus on the things that we love about America, and not necessarily the government, but the country itself. And so 250 is like an enormous number, right? Like it's kind of young for a country, but it's way too big for a top 250 list. So we just divided by 10, and Ash and I are really excited to bring you our top 25 things we love most about America.
And it'd be nice to do, like a really positive episode for a country we're celebrating. So that's what we'd like to focus on today.
All right. Should we start at 25 and count down to like our top American love?
Yeah, without further ado.
Number 25.
Whitney Houston.
Yes. This cannot be overstated. I'm sorry that she's only number 25, but I think we've even posted this clip before on this show. Mm-hmm. That moment in, what year was it?
So I believe it's 91 because it was actually right in the middle of Desert Storm. So you have Americans in the audience who are actually not cheering for whatever team they're rooting for in the Super Bowl. They're cheering for America. Mm-hmm. It's one of those rare times, like after September 11th, when everybody came together for a hot minute.
Yeah, and it seems like, unfortunately, to me anyway, it seems like it takes more and more extreme situations for that to even happen anymore. But you had this moment, and you and I remember it from being kids on September 11th, like you said, but this moment of, obviously you're there for sports, but what brings you together is not which team you like the most, it's your country. And you had this beautiful, gorgeous Barbie-esque woman with the most gifted, talented voice I think has ever existed, certainly in our generation, belting out what seems like effortlessly our anthem. I cry every time. Every time. It's so beautiful, and it's such a moment in time for us.
Yeah, so now there's a newly released version of it that's in 4K, where obviously Whitney Houston is going to look more beautiful in 4K than anybody's ever looked with her like lovely smile. She's just like the wind never stood a chance. She's just wearing like like a USA, windbreaker and warm-up pants. Something, like Hannah points out, effortlessly cute, effortlessly beautiful, and a range that was completely unmatched by any pop star, but anybody much ever.
And it comes out of her like laughing. Like it's like she's just by opening her mouth, it just tumbles out.
And she never stops smiling.
Mm-hmm.
She never like, it doesn't seem tough at all for her. And to just see, like, she starts at this deep register and builds to these beautiful high notes that nobody else is ever going to hit. She is the embodiment in this of American exceptionalism.
If you didn't watch that clip last time we posted it, even if you don't watch it this time that we post it, make sure sometime this month, celebrating our country, check that out on YouTube. It's such a beautiful moment, and if it doesn't move you, you're a serial killer.
Yeah, so. And I'll just say one more thing about it is there's a wobbly version of it on YouTube. The not 4K cut version.
Oh, like recorded off of a TV or something?
Yep, where they interview soldiers who were talking about basically how they watched the Super Bowl when they were fighting in Desert Storm, and they saw the audience rallying around them. Mm-hmm. American flags all over the stadium, and how they heard Whitney sing and they knew everything was going to be all right.
All right, so that was our number 25. Moving on to number 24. This is, I think I contributed this to our list. I had read something one time about, it was like long and stupid, but it was basically like a collection of criticisms that people who are not American have of Americans, and what the root cause of it is, and like if there's some envy in there. And one of them was just the physical space and size of our country. It's enormous. Like, I think landmass, it's like number, I'm going to really talk out of turn. It's definitely top 10. It's a really large country, especially considering how many people we like put in here versus how much like square acreage there is. So we have a lot more physical space than other countries, and it's a source of like envy and like derision, I guess, especially amongst like Europeans. We have elbow room. We have room to spread out. And the reason I decided to kind of put it lower on the list is that even though this is true, I'm still crammed into a subdivision where I can almost reach out and touch my neighbor. But the idea that you can go out to the country, that you could one day like retire on a piece of land, that there are places like Wyoming where you can get acreages for like just like super cheap and never see or hear your neighbors. It's a big, beautiful land with plenty of room to grow, and there's like a peace in knowing that for me.
Yeah, the idea of having space, isn't that like evidence of the freedom you have? Mm-hmm. Not only can you buy this beautiful piece of property, but if you want to be a recluse, you can have privacy, which is another inherent right that Americans have that a lot of other people, as Hannah points out, in Europe, frankly, don't enjoy.
Yeah, so I feel grateful to have a place where if you are, socioeconomically stable, you have that option of living in a city, in a downtown, kind of crammed together if that's your preference, but you don't have to if it's not. So I think that's pretty cool.
Manifest destiny, bitch. Let's just take Canada if we want it.
From sea to shining sea.
23. Here's a little bit of a fun one that I think I just shouted out because this is something that is an American invention that I think everyone should love. That's peanut butter.
Yeah, Ash, you did shout it out. This was one of the first things you said. I think it might have even been the first thing you said. And the glee with which you said it is something that I'll always remember. Currently, we have 6 jars of peanut butter in our pantry right now. And only the 2 of us live here. The dog eats it sometimes, but that's a uniquely American invention. I think other countries actually kind of like feel a little snooty about this and like look down on us for it. I remember I lived overseas for a couple years and I missed peanut butter, something incredible. Like, it was so hard to find. I remember I found almond butter and I was like, oh, this has got to be close. Ooh, Not close.
Almond butter's a sin, for one
It
thing.
is. It looks like Nutella and it tastes like Satan.
Two, though, I want to say that I'm somebody who thinks that Black Americans who are part of history should be celebrated all year long, should be taught, about all year long. And George Washington Carver is a gift because who doesn't love peanut butter? I think if you don't love peanut butter, to Hannah's point, you're probably not American.
You're probably not American. You don't understand. Like, I think he invented it out of a sense of, like, we have this huge crop. Like, what else could we be doing with it? Like, it's cheap to grow. It's good for the soil. This is something the South does well. Like, how can we make this a bigger business than it is? And so, aside from being a delicious, nutritious snack, it's really ingenuitive and just a symbol of, like, American exceptionalism, I think.
Yeah, and for lack of a better phrase, if you're some European who hates peanut butter, you're probably just grape jelly that you guys didn't come up with it.
I know we've kind of discussed this. Are you a crunchy or a creamy?
I'm a creamy and you're a crunchy.
I am. I'm so sorry.
No, it doesn't bother me to eat the crunchy. I just, I'm the type of person that wanted something smooth on my bread, but now I have a gluten and yeast allergy and I can't eat it anyway, so we can have any kind of peanut butter you want in the house.
I got to say I changed as I grew. When I was younger, stay away from me with that crunchy shit. But then the older I got, the more it was like, I don't know. I really liked the texture.
I find it interesting that you are a crunchy peanut butter, no pulp person.
Because pulp is an atrocity.
Pulp makes me remember that this is real fruit.
You want like a mouthful of things you have to chew in your drink?
I like to just have that little piece of pulp that squeezes and I remember it's an orange. I just I don't know. But I can't drink orange juice either because of the acid. So let's just move on to something else I love but can't drink. Bourbon.
Number 22, bourbon.
Kentucky bourbon, baby.
So I actually don't know all that much about whiskey for being a fan. Bourbon is uniquely American because, like, whiskey is Irish, right? But bourbon is American because it's, like, corn-based.
And I think there's something about the use of the barrel that makes it, like to age it, that specifically is born in, our American South. Kentucky, Tennessee, but you can't beat, I'm simple, I don't need anything like that's aged, to be so expensive I feel guilty drinking it. If you get me a good, like, Maker's Mark, I will be a happy girl, and I have an ulcer and an allergy, and I still from time to time have to just bleed American and enjoy that bourbon.
And I think it's cool too, like one of the podcasts I listened to was talking about this, specifically Pappy Van Winkle bourbon, and like how it came to be recognized like amongst, what's the word I want? Connoisseurs, as being like one of the top brands. And it's like you have this casual, like redneck vibe, small batch, American South distillery, and they're making what bourbon and whiskey connoisseurs call like one of the best, most like complete palates. It's generally, like, depending which kind you buy, it's kind of affordable, hard to get your hands on, but it's casual, it's American, it's exceptional, and that's pretty cool.
And it's ours,
Yeah, it's uniquely ours. You can't get Pappy Van Winkle from France, let me tell you.
And another drink that is uniquely American, and I'm drinking one right now to tell you the truth. There are few things I love more than Coca-Cola.
Our number 21, Coca-Cola. You're right, it does not get more American than that. I know we invented Pepsi, and like, I don't know if it's considered generally American soda in general.
Well, I think so. Like Dr. Pepper we learned, we were playing Trivial Pursuit with my family yesterday, and we learned that it was the first actually introduced. But I remember doing projects in a business class about the pharmacist who invented Coca-Cola, and it's just interesting that something that was maybe traditionally used for one thing could be repurposed for something else and become its own just wildly successful business that people see as greatly American, that definitely makes it to other world markets. But I remember for a while I had a backdrop on my Facebook page and a t-shirt that said "Enjoy Capitalism" in the Coca-Cola font. Because to me, it's like they're marketing everything about Coca-Cola is uniquely Coca-Cola, but wildly successful, and it's just kind of fun to watch.
And you're right, it's such a successful American brand, but it's become more than just a soft drink. It's more than just like a good marketing campaign. Something about it has crossed the line into like legendary Americana. Like that shade of red, the Coca-Cola girls, the glass bottle. Like, I know people who specifically collect Coca-Cola memorabilia. Mm-hmm. You've got like the old vending machines and marketing materials. It's become sort of like a placeholder for the idea of America and freedom and individualism. And hey man, there's really nothing better.
Yeah, in high school I actually had a Coca-Cola themed bedroom with they were plastic, but they were modeled on like Tiffany lamps that were Coca-Cola.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I had a calendar of the Coca-Cola girls, mm-hmm. which my mom probably should have thought something about. And it was just nothing I loved more than a nice cold Coke. Fortunately, I've come around to drinking Coke Zero, so I don't have the added calories. But there's nothing like a nice cold Coke on a hot day in the summer. So beautiful for the 4th.
Absolutely. Moving on to our number 20. We're getting away from the edible things a little bit more. Getting back to the country itself. I think I contributed this one. I think it's so cool that our country has such diversity of climate and ecosystems. You've got rainforest, you've got desert, mountains, valleys, swamp. You've got like deciduous forest and tropical areas. Basically, any kind of environment that you're looking for, you can travel without a passport and see that in our country. It sort of harkens back to how big it is, but it's not just big, it's diverse. Like any kind of environment that you're looking for.
Yeah, I think about if you were trying to make an indie movie mm-hmm. and you don't have the budget to go film on a beach in South Africa and then go shoot in Vancouver, you can find everything that you need within the United States. And if you're looking to just explore your own country, you may never see all of it. You may mm-hmm. never actually experience everything that's here to experience because, to Hannah's point earlier, it's so vast. Mm-hmm. It's really kind of amazing.
And there's some like benchmark things that are not just like the most notable in our country, but the most notable in the planet. Like we live in the Great Lakes state. It's the largest collection of fresh water anywhere on the planet. These lakes are record breaking in a lot of ways. You have Death Valley, which I think is the hottest place on the planet, bar none. The landscape, if you watch Ken Burns' The American West, it's so cool. I would recommend it. But you have like landscapes like Arizona and the Grand Canyon and like all these like weird alien looking type environments. It's just, you can't find that anywhere else.
And there are things just within our state of Michigan that it's mm-hmm, like mm-hmm. you might spend your whole life exploring, and we have an entire country at our fingertips. If you want to live in a place that has almost the same climate all the time, you can go to San Diego. Mm-hmm. If you want a place like Michigan where you have all 4 seasons, mm-hmm. you can find that here. So it's really kind of like choice served up, and mm-hmm. what's more American than that?
Yeah, anything you want. All right, moving on to number 19.
We invented a lot of our own sports here, and for the ones we didn't invent, so many of them have become American.
Yeah, I'm not a sports fan by any stretch of the imagination, but I do feel like this weird, probably displaced sense of pride about things that are uniquely American in the sports world. I looked it up earlier today just to fact check myself a little bit, but volleyball and basketball are completely American. I didn't write it down, but pickleball And then you have things, so baseball and football are based on older European sports, but we've made them their own, like, unique entities here. So American baseball, American football, yeah.
And you play volleyball, or played, and that's also uniquely American. I'm just going to say this as a girl who is a Kinsey 5 and likes to look at girls. What is more American than beach volleyball? Giant, beautiful females in bikinis on a beach. There's nothing more American than that. I love it.
God bless.
I love it when they end up like on their butts, and when they stand up, you just get the nice little sand marks on each cheek.
You like a sandy butt?
I love a sandy butt. Yeah. But all that being said, I'm getting nervous about it.
Yeah, this is new information for me.
I'm sitting right next to a volleyball player. I'll have to keep my hands to myself. Football. I love American football, and I hate that the rest of the world calls soccer football. It's like, football is a thing now. You can take your word soccer. Quit using our word. We're stronger than you. Football's football now. FIFA, kiss my ass.
I gotta say, we were in a bourbon bar the other night that had a sign about, like, no motorcycle gangs on the door. So, like, a very American experience walking into this darkly lit bourbon bar, and all the screens had fucking FIFA on.
Yeah, or golf. I'm like, isn't there something like
more bourbon-y that we could do?
Yeah, exactly.
Like anything. Put Yellowstone on, for God's sake.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I am a sports fan. I have definitely gotten away from watching sports all the time, but I think the camaraderie of it is really something to see. Like, to be in a sports bar and hear in unison people go like, oh, can be really hilarious. And the way that Americans sort of like rally together, just like with the Whitney Houston thing, when it comes to sports, can be really something to see.
Unique. That's not unique.
It's
to
not
Americans,
uniquely American,
but our sports are unique, and our rallying around our unique sports is interesting.
And just like everybody else, we do it better. So.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
I mean, I think our athleticism. Oh man, I'm about to say some things, but Americans excel in so many ways, and sports is just one of those ways.
Amen.
All right, moving on. 18.
Jeans.
Blue jeans. Levi Strauss.
Sydney Sweeney.
Sydney Sweeney. Yeah, not to make a Sydney Sweeney faux pas here. We mean jeans with a J. And again, like, going back to what I said, how I was reading something about like criticisms of American culture that people from like Europe especially have. You always hear that stereotype that, like, if you're wearing jeans in Europe, like, everyone knows you're an American, or anywhere, frankly, that it's like a negative thing somehow that we would be walking around in jeans and sneakers and a baseball hat. I don't give a flying fuck. If you have worn jeans, you understand that they are the pant wear choice.
Yeah. And there's something interesting that I think maybe Europeans, again, might be a little jealous about, or anybody really in the world who doesn't understand the appeal of jeans because they just have never worn them, or, they are not as confident in people who wear them just all the time. If you remember those milk ads from the 90s, like, does a body good, it was typically a celebrity in jeans with a tucked in white t-shirt drinking milk. And you realize that beautiful people look great in jeans and a t-shirt. It's the whole James Dean, it's the simplicity of it. It's the coolness and the confidence of, you're wearing something so dialed back and you look great. And you look great. And jeans, they can hug a frame of the American cowboy. Like, again, Kinsey 5, if a man is wearing tight jeans and he's making it work for him.
The proper kind of tight jean, yeah, that, like, accentuates.
Cowboy, like, original Levi Strauss jeans.
Picture, like, 1996 Mark Harmon in a perfectly fitted pair of jeans and a white t-shirt.
Yeah, nobody's gonna look better than
Does
that.
it get better? I don't think so.
Yeah, it's just something. That's Americana right there.
And I think what makes it Americana too, like obviously we wear them all the time and it's become a standard, and I think other countries, if they're trying to like emulate a style of like coolness and like rebel sort of vibes, they'll put on denim as well.
Mm-hmm.
But I think another aspect of what makes it so American is that they came out of a place of like utilitarianism. Like
Yeah.
these were people who were living like rough, active lives. Like settling the West was a big deal, and you needed clothes that could like keep up with you. And so they made them out of a source of, or out of a place of like necessity. So you could go ranching and like clearing land and settling land and like taking care of livestock and shit, and you had clothes that could keep up with you.
And Hannah knows this. I'm 4'10". I have a badonkadonk. I work a business casual job. I replaced all of my black slacks with black denim because I never feel as confident as I do in a pair of jeans. And you cannot spell Kardashian without Ash.
Yeah, they it does get better than 1996 Mark Harmon in a pair of jeans.
Oh, no.
My wife in a pair of jeans could stop traffic.
And sometimes does.
And sometimes, oh my God.
I'll tell you a quick story.
Yes, please do.
I was actually, Hannah was nice enough to put together a grill for me for Father's Day, which was one of the cutest things anyone's ever done for me. And she's putting together this grill, so trying to be helpful, I was kind of just cleaning up some of the debris that we had. Went to go get our recycling and trash barrels, and when I bent over to flip up the top, because I am short and it was just off the curb, there was a guy dropping off food next door who just with no words like gave me a nod and like the okay symbol. And I just like nodded back like, yes, I understand, thank you.
Yes, I get this all the time.
I get that this is a very big booty.
But you know, it's like it's quantity and quality. So please don't ever think you have one and not the other.
Thank you.
Speaking of not apologizing for God's gifts on your derriere. Number 17, the no apologies individualistic attitude that Americans have. So like, just like I was saying, how you hear criticisms of Americans wearing jeans, you know, abroad. We know who we are.
Yeah.
We know that we're a bit of a caricature of our culture. We know that the world likes to kind of tease us and poke fun at us as, you know, like we're uncouth or uncultured. Too loud, too brash, too excessive, too sexualized, whatever kind of criticism people want to say about our culture. I feel like Americans see it and they're like, fuck yes, that's who we are. Deal with it.
Yeah, I was actually telling Hannah a story that I heard on a late night talk show wherein Emily Blunt said that she was telling John Krasinski, like, please don't wear a baseball hat, you know, your Boston hat when we go out in London, because everybody's going to know exactly who you are. And she realized when she saw his face drop that him wearing a Boston hat is exactly who he is. And by telling him not to do it, she was sort of muting his American identity. And flash forward to the following year, and they were both wearing Boston hats in London because that's who her husband is. And to tell him, don't wear your jeans and your Boston hat is like, you don't get to be American here.
Yeah, like everyone's going to know that you're American. It's like, well, I am American. Yeah. And I'm not sorry for my culture. I'm not sorry to be where I'm from. Is it the like most genteel person at the party? Is it the most like refined and demure? No, but like I'm proud of it. I'm proud of it because it's not.
Yeah, and Hannah and I are not like Detroiters, you know, and we kind of think it's funny that people who are also not from Detroit try to like adopt the identity.
People who are as much as like 1 hour's drive away from Detroit will call themselves Detroiters, and it's funny to me. Like so many people who aren't from the city proper will say that they are.
But I've never been to Boston, but I totally understand having pride in being a Bostonian because of the history associated with Boston as an American.
Sure.
And so if you're somebody like John Krasinski and you are like a Bostonian and you want to wear your Boston hat, especially when you're not in this country, more power to you. I get it. I'm a little jealous of it. Go for it.
I gotta say, when I was in Japan, I saw somebody with a Detroit Tigers hat on one time.
Aww.
And I think I just waved at the person with both hands and like didn't say anything. Just like, hey, like it's such a cool piece of camaraderie. Like, I'm not an enormous baseball fan and I'm not from Detroit, but I like the Detroit Tigers, and to see that little piece of home away from home felt really, really cool.
Now, do you remember if the person was male or female? Was it a guy?
It was a male, yeah.
Well, this is funny to me, especially because the person who wears the hat all the time is not an American. But I have noticed that whether he's out on the street or interviewed, Tom Hardy wears a Detroit hat all the time.
Interesting.
And I find it funny that although he's a Brit, he's got kind of like a big build American swagger.
He doesn't look British whatsoever. He looks so American.
The teeth give it away. And
we'll get to that on our list.
Yes, we will. And it's just so funny to me that of all the cities and all the teams, he wears a Detroit hat, because it's like, you can do it. Like, we'll give you the pass. You pull it off. So
yeah, we'll take
way to go.
You're a son of Detroit, sir.
All right.
Number 16.
Cultural diversity.
Not just a class you're forced to take in college. It's true that this is truly a melting pot, and while it causes a lot of tension and a lot of complaints sometimes, you can't deny the fact that our country is built on this like tapestry of different colored threads and different styles, different flavors, and it's become its own unique American blend. It's not any one of those pieces, but it's something else entirely when you put them all together.
Yeah, I would say you have to find that balance with everything that gets introduced. So I agree with Thomas Sowell that like multiculturalism, where you just adopt these cultures and then no one has any kind of like Americanized, changes seeping into them. I think that could be very dangerous. However, the things that do get injected into the culture in a positive way have all kinds of benefits. So the idea, like let's take the market-based capitalism aspect of food in this country. The idea that you could get authentic cuisine from all these different countries, and that you have the choice to try almost anything now, especially in a city, like a real city, is pretty amazing. Like, you don't have to dial back anything. And it's thanks to people who came here seeking a better life and had also, which to me is very American, an entrepreneurial spirit, that they wanted to start a restaurant and share that with people around them.
And they're doing what they know best. They're taking things from their background and their culture and bringing it here and turning it into an opportunity to make their family better, to give themselves security, and to share something that you may have not had a chance to encounter otherwise with your neighbors. And I think it's cool too, like obviously there are a lot of places you can get super authentic cuisine, but something that I enjoy just as much is when it changes into an American version of what the original intention was. For example, like really good sushi in America is nothing like sushi in Japan. And I like them both, and they're completely different, and it's cool to have the option. It's a bit of a joke in our household, but we talk about Taco Bell the same way. Like, there's great, authentic Mexican cuisine in America that you can get easily at a lot of places. But Taco Bell is its own thing that has nothing to do with that, and I like it just as much.
Or at
least,
Chinese.
I'm in the mood for it sometimes. Thank God there's American Chinese restaurants, because authentic American Chinese isn't for everybody, and it's cool to have the option to, do one or the other.
Yeah, to have this sort of marriage sometimes, between like an authentic restaurant, wherever this person's from. Let's take like authentic Chinese food from an actual Chinese person, for example. This person who comes to America gets to like bring something that they get to introduce to a community that community might never have seen. And that is the product and service they get to offer. And an American gets to decide, like, I want to try this and I'm going to pay for it. And then the integration that you see of somebody who came from like a communist country who maybe never even got these opportunities is I get to be involved in a voluntary exchange that you know, this person's going to enjoy and it's going to better my life for being a part of. And I think that's really like something beautiful and something that we should encourage and be passionate about.
Yeah, obviously food is just a microcosm of what we're talking about, but I think it's a good example.
Yeah.
Obviously keeping in mind that like people are doing the same things with food that they're doing with ideas or business models or cultural events, fashion, like you name it, it's a smorgasbord of beautiful things that we get the opportunity to try.
And speaking of things that we get the opportunity to try and be engaged in, and honestly that people criticize, but I think is really unfair, let's talk about Amazon for a minute. Our number 15.
Our number 15, Amazon the company, not the forest.
I find Amazon really interesting because I feel like, this is going to sound funny, I feel about Amazon like I feel about money. The people who criticize it are probably, they want to have it. So like a lot of the people who I think are telling you, like, don't buy anything from Amazon today, just boycott them. It's like, you know that if at the last minute they are like, oh shoot, I ran out of my foundation. They're going to be online not telling a soul that they ordered on Amazon that day anyway.
Yeah.
But the convenience of it. Amazon mainstreamed convenience.
Yeah, I think like most things, most criticisms, it's born of envy or some kind of fear. And I think fear of change is big with Amazon. Like it's not the way we've done business for like most of humanity. But now all of a sudden you have like the complete retail experience of anything you could think of purchasing, and it comes to your front door. Like that is landmark change in how business is conducted.
And Amazon is a triumphant story. It's an American story in the same way the invention of the light bulb is an American story. Because that company, for at least a decade, did not make money. It was a story of failure after failure until it became the ultimate success that led to Jeff Bezos, at least for a time, being the richest person in the world. You know, like pre-Elon Musk, and then for a time them going back and forth and having a pissing contest.
Right.
It was, I didn't give up on this idea because I knew it was only a matter of time. Like I believed in an idea that I had what it took to be successful. And I think that is the American spirit in a nutshell. Yeah,
it is a really triumphant story and one that any human, I think, could appreciate. And the world is made... listen, there are drawbacks to big business. You want to talk about carbon footprints and, whatever else. We could be here all day. But overall, the benefits that this has brought, not just to America, but to the world. Like there are versions of Amazon for each country. And it's making people safer, I think. It's making people live better, healthier lives. It's a benefit. You can't say it's not a benefit.
And the idea now that they're getting their own pharmacy, like that it started with books, and now you can actually order whole foods, the grocery store, and get groceries sent to your house. So it encompasses like other products and services that they probably never dreamed in the beginning.
You can get an appointment with a doctor through Amazon.
The idea that that's a bad thing, that there may be a point. Because really, Jeff Bezos, his ex-wife, they're really philanthropic. The idea that you might be criticizing a company that might one day distribute medicine to places in the world that couldn't get it otherwise, it's like, calm down. Just calm down.
Or even just to your neighbor who doesn't have a driver's license anymore, or like who lives alone and no one checks on. Like a little elderly person who,
can't get out of the house.
Yeah.
Can't see anymore to drive. Like, it really, there's so many benefits. And I, for one, love Amazon. And every time somebody is like, on X day, let's boycott Amazon, I order things that I never would have ordered just to support the company. Because I believe in choices in America.
I've been holding off on stocking up on toilet paper. I guess now's the day to do it.
Yeah, can deliver it right to my door.
Okay, moving on. Number 14. This was a tricky one for me to like help us place in the list, because I think if I didn't have it, I wouldn't necessarily feel as strongly about it as I do. But because we do have it, number 14, American dentistry. You can say what you want. I know, again, people in Australia and Europe like to joke around about how American teeth are too straight and too white. What? We have the best chompers on the planet, and I'm not sorry.
No, Hannah has a beautiful smile, by the way.
So does Ash. We both have like such straight white teeth.
And I have to say, I have a friend in Wales that said, as someone who's Welsh, everyone around me will make fun of American teeth. Mm-hmm. Like, they're obsessed with perfection. And they will make fun of American accents. And it's only because we Welsh people find your accents and your teeth so attractive, it drives us crazy.
And I believe it. I mean, even in a biological standpoint, healthy teeth make for a healthy organism.
Yeah.
And if your teeth are clean and well maintained, you're going to live a healthier, longer life. Like, end of story. That's been true since things with teeth have existed. And there's a lot of things about an American lifestyle that might like cut your life short or raise your risk for morbidity or whatever. It ain't going to be our teeth.
Yeah. And I think of all the things you can do, there's really two things you can do, let's say three, to make yourself like the best version of yourself. You should be exercising, you should be dressing as well as you can, and take care of your mouth. Mm-hmm. Like, if you have white teeth and fresh breath, you're probably just farther ahead of, let's say, 70% of guys, because you just take care of that stuff.
Oh, I hate that. It's like living in our country and having things as cheaply available as we do in terms of like toothbrush and toothpaste. Mm-hmm. When I see somebody who clearly doesn't take care of your teeth, it's like,
you're a low effort person.
How fucking lazy. How little do you think of yourself and the people around you? You expect somebody to date you with that mouth?
Yeah, exactly. So this has inspired me to set an appointment to see a dentist. It's been a while for me, and I'm going to do that. But that said, I do brush my teeth like 4 times a day, and I use Smart Mouth. I'm obsessed with having nice breath. And I
do feel like it's one of those things, like you said, that it like doesn't take that much effort or money. My insurance covers 2 dentist appointments a year. I brush and floss 3 times a day. Mm-hmm. I wear a mouth guard at night because that's what my dentist told me to do. And suck on it, Europe.
So number 13, which it's hard again to find the proper placement for this, but we thought it was important to mention.
I was tempted to put it at number 1. I could see somebody putting it a little bit lower, but we decided to sneak it in at 13, right around the center here.
Valuing our pets.
As a country, we are a little crazy about the way we treat our animals in the eyes of the rest of the world. Do I think it's crazy? Absolutely not. Which is why I kind of wanted to almost put it up in top 5. Like, especially as 2 women who aren't going to be moms. Mm-hmm. I value my pets as dearly as if they were children. They are a part of our family, and they make our lives better. There's so many, like, health and psychological benefits to having a pet in your life.
Yeah. To me, it's very interesting the way people are really knee-jerk and angry about people like Hannah and me. Dual income, no kids. We just saw that on one of our trivia cards yesterday. Hannah and I weren't just like feminists with cats who, aren't going to have kids as like a fuck you to the man. We met a little bit later in the life. Mm-hmm. We thought about possibly having kids, truth be told, I don't know if I've ever like been 100% sure that I wanted them. And to me, that's reason enough not to go forward with having them. But we also had some other factors to consider, cost of IVF, and then our age.
Yeah, and honestly, I'll just throw that out there. I think you said, like, not as a fuck you to the man, but also kind of as a fuck you to the man for me. I'm not going to pay for something that I could do for free.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with us medically. We just don't have the necessary ingredients. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
But yeah, there were a lot of factors other than just like political ones why we have arrived to a childless household.
But at the same time, like me as somebody who like, I've never held a baby. They've always freaked me out. When someone offers a baby...
I love babies. I love holding
a little
babies.
worried that I'm going to drop them. I have tiny hands. I have arthritis. I have a bar in my wrist. And when people go like this, I'm like, what if I drop the baby? It's not a matter of like, I hate this baby kind of a thing. Sure. It's more like, I'm a little bit scared. This is a precious gift. And I don't want to be the person that messes anything up. But if somebody asks me if I want to hold their puppy... I want to hold a puppy. I want to hold a kitten, and I'm allergic to cats.
Yeah.
And so I'm really excited about animals. And like when people says your dog / your cat is not your baby, fuck you. It's my baby.
What do you know about my babies?
Exactly.
Yeah,
So
I think there's something like an escapism, escape from humanity and the ugly things we say and do to each other. You get the unconditional love of an animal in your life. I think it is good for you, but it makes you a better person to take care of something that is that innocent, to witness how unconditionally they love you back, to be responsible for something so vulnerable and giving. Yeah. It's like an example of true love in your life, even if everything around you is shit. It makes you a better person to love an animal.
To tweak the Les Mis line, to love another being is to see the face of God. I am a believer, and I really feel like the only thing that will love you unconditionally is an animal. The only thing that's always going to forgive you. Like, we're not perfect. Like, sometimes if, our dog or cat has an accident where they shouldn't, and we just kind of go like, oh, like, why did you do that? And we, deep down, we know it really wasn't their fault. And we're like, I'm sorry. Like, I didn't mean to yell at you. They're the first ones to forgive you, to give you a kiss, to move on from that. And I really do believe that the proof of God is in an animal who loves you. It's a mirror. I think they're gifts directly given to us to get us through hard times. So that's just my belief about what animals are in our lives.
Yeah. Do you remember there was, because we live in a state that borders Canada in a few different places, there was a big truckers strike, and the government got involved and was in opposition to the strike. And one of the things they did, I don't know if you remember this, they confiscated the families of these truckers. They confiscated their pets as leverage. Yeah. And I am enraged just thinking about that, but it's something that gives me a little bit of hope that it couldn't happen in America, because can you imagine the government that would dare to take our pets from us? You want to talk about World War III, it would start right there. And
I feel like, governments are trying this. They're dipping the toe in the water. All these articles you see about how your pet sleeping with you is bad for you. Your dog is not your baby.
Fuck off.
Yeah, and I honestly think there are two things that would keep us from some broader takeover by another culture that doesn't work the way we do. We love our guns and we love our pets.
God bless.
God bless.
All right. Moving on. Number 12. Speaking of what you're talking about, Ash, right now, this whole fuck around and find out attitude of the people and of the government, in terms of our diplomacy. We're not seeing it, I feel like, as much in this administration as we would like to, but historically, leading up to this moment, and including this moment, I think more so than other countries to a large degree, fuck around with the United States and find out. Yeah.
If we look at the two biggest examples, let's take Pearl Harbor and September 11th. You may have a culture or an administration that's a bit more isolationist, like we were just before World War II. But there's something built into American culture that says we will lead with diplomacy, but the minute you attack us, this is maybe just a libertarian idea. An attack demands a response. Mm-hmm. So we will always lead with like coming to a table, trying to work things out. But the minute you fuck around, you're gonna find out.
Yeah, and really, that's the only way to be. Speak softly, carry a big stick. My man Teddy said it first. And there is a lot of room for discussion. American diplomacy is not perfect. Our responses are not perfect. However, the general attitude that we have about it makes me feel safer. I sleep better at night knowing that if somebody really had it out for us, we're gonna turn him into a parking lot.
And let's look at my guy. Let's look at Ronnie Reagan. The idea of peace through strength is, I think, best exemplified through him. There wasn't a war under Ronald Reagan. But for him to say, Mr. Gorbachev, tear down that wall, and for it to happen, because he said, tear down the wall, and he didn't say what was going to happen if he didn't do it.
He didn't have to.
The idea is sometimes just leaving it out there creates that rumination, the cycle of fear in somebody else about what's going to happen if I don't do what the United States of America says. Mm-hmm. And to me, that can be the most powerful thing, way more powerful than just making an assumption and bombing someone.
Absolutely.
So God bless Ronald Reagan. Miss you, Gipper.
Okay. Number 11, the American medical system. Also a point of major contention. A lot of people like to say it's horrible. People compare infant mortality rates with countries like Croatia and Bosnia. As somebody who works in American medical systems and has studied it, I've had to take classes like in regards to like, you know, the economy of the healthcare system and the legislation and all these things that go into it. Is it perfect? No. Is it the only one I feel comfortable living in? Absolutely. Because at the end of the day, while there is disparity and while there is a lot of room for improvement, at the end of the day, if I have a cancer that no one has ever been able to successfully cure before, I have the option to pursue experimental treatment. I have the option to seek out the doctor I want taking care of me. I have the option to get the treatment that I feel like is best for me. And nobody's telling me if my life is worth saving or in what manner I'm allowed to try to save it in. I'm not on waiting lists unless it's for something like an organ transplant, right? There's an innovation here that you just don't see in socialized countries. There's an incentive for inventors to make the best and most innovative treatments, and that means options for people.
Yeah, and in addition to some choices that people have here that they wouldn't have otherwise, there's a reason that people from elsewhere come to the United States if they have the means to do so. Something really simple that I saw firsthand. I was having some trouble with my stomach, needed an endoscopy. Within 20 days, I got one here in the United States. I decided to look up how long that would take in Canada. It's 250 days on the low end.
Wow.
And in British Columbia, it's actually 600 plus days.
Was that like almost 2 years?
Yes. So the idea that, let's just say I didn't have an ulcer. Let's say I had esophageal cancer or stomach cancer. I might not make it to the endoscopy in Canada. And I know that there are plenty of people that want to say that Canada has a better system. It's like, well, you need supplemental to even kind of even the playing field. But there are plenty of people that know they're put on a waiting list because they do have a cancer. And if they have the means, they're coming to the United States for treatment or they don't have a chance at all. And to me, that speaks volumes, and it's the same now, both in Canada and in the UK. It doesn't work. Socialized medicine kind of just makes outcomes farther away and then not as good. And to me, that should be all the evidence you need, that although our system needs lots of reforms, it's still better than that system.
Yeah, and I do want to be cognizant of the fact that there is, like I said before, there is a lot of room for improvement. We could be taking better care of each other. We could be taking better care of our more vulnerable populations. I'm not saying that it is not true. It absolutely is. But I think you're only going to get the potential for actual equality of care and actual best care in a system like this. There's nowhere to go in a socialized system. When I think about what I do at work, we've talked about it a little bit, we're looking at the specific genetic aberrations that cause different kinds of cancers and trying to get the best treatment for people, trying to make sure bone marrow transplants have actually taken root and are helping the patient. We're looking at tiny little deletions and additions of your genome for people with learning disabilities or potentially autism. We're trying to really pinpoint some niche, expensive testing to help outcomes for people. I don't think there's anything like that in a place like Canada.
Yeah.
You get what you get and you hope for the best. And I don't think you can call yourself the humanitarian you think you are when you rail against a system of privatized medicine without taking into effect how many people fall through the cracks and how many people die needlessly in a socialized healthcare system. You won't, in my opinion, you won't find the majority of doctors, the majority of nurses, the majority of scientists on your side if you're gunning for socialized medicine.
Oh, definitely not. Definitely not. And I know that I usually get the most compliments of wearing something like a Reagan shirt when I'm around healthcare workers. So it always makes me feel safe to wear those shirts. Number 10.
Number 10 is a little nebulous, a little hard to pin down, but we're going to do our best here. It's a phrase we've all grown up with. We probably had to write essays about in elementary school, all the way through college admissions essays. The American dream. It means something different to everybody. It is, like I said, it's nebulous. It's hard to pin down. I think that it is a special idea, though, that belongs on our list because it means something different to everybody, and because you can look at examples of immigrant stories or even just, fifth generation people stories. There is opportunity in America that you don't get in other countries. Not saying it's what it used to be 100 years ago, not saying you can't find some examples of it in other places, but I think the idea that you can be here and be who you want to be and make what you want to out of your life, you have the most possibility of accomplishing that here in the United States.
Yeah, Hannah makes a great point. No, it's not as simple as it may have been in the 1950s, but simplicity isn't always good. There are elements of good and bad that I think we need to acknowledge. And our life together is a great example. So in the 1950s, I might not have had the opportunity to even have a relationship with her, let alone marry her. Now, not only are we married, and yes, we are railing against things like higher property tax, higher income tax, inflation. But at the same time, rather than just making all of these excuses, giving up and, living on a welfare system, a sort of poor, stagnant life, we actually choose to just do our best and pull ourselves up by the bootstraps, which is an American idea, very much so. And because we worked together and married each other, which is, although, our relationship is non-traditional, that's a very traditional thing to do. Because of that, as an enterprise, our marriage has been very successful. We can have a home that's paid off. As two millennial women, which many millennials will tell you is impossible. We will have a retirement fund that, gets us to live a life when we're older that is comfortable and good for us. Yep. And that, to me, is the American dream. And the fact that we're two women who love each other and get to do it together in the modern world, this is the best time to live as an American, even though there are things in the past that maybe would have been easier. I would take being an American today with her than any other point in human history anywhere else.
Aw, baby, give me a kiss. All right. Yeah, I think it's interesting that you point out economically was the American dream more achievable. Let's say even in 1900 or 1850s or 1950s. Like, there were less economic barriers to, like, becoming like a Rockefeller or like an oil magnate or something in Texas. That opportunity today seems greatly diminished. However, we have more social freedoms than we ever had back then.
Yeah.
And we can... Ash is wearing a free Iran shirt right now. We have an American 250 flag out front. We put a menorah in our window during Hanukkah. We have the right to bear arms and do like those things. Like, it's incredible. It's an incredible time of human freedom in our country.
I call for, the resignation, for the removal of J.D. Vance every day on Twitter, and nothing happens to me. We're not living, although there are elements of fascism in our government, we're not living under a system where our right to free speech has been revoked, where we're not free to be together, and where we're not free to sort of fight against all of the powers that be to still get a better life, the American dream.
Yep. My American dream is not my grandparents' American dream. It's not their grandparents' American dream, but it is mine. And it's a phrase that you can bring up to most people, and you talk about it long enough, you're going to get a little misty-eyed, and it's going to really hit you in the heart what it means to you to be a free person who is in charge of their destiny. So I think that is a huge factor on our list as we get to the top 10 here.
And regardless of what people tell you, it's not dead, and it's still worth fighting for.
It's fluid, and it's going to be different, but it's always there.
So number 9 is something that I think is pretty unique to Americans, and something that I think goes along with how brave we are and how we are built on wanting to do right as Americans. It's the fact that our own citizens physically fought, and, fought in every way you can imagine to bring about the end of slavery.
Yeah, this is a cool one. And to be honest, Ash, something I hadn't thought about in these specific terms until you brought it up for this list. I don't know necessarily off the top of my head of another country that shed its own blood to bring this about. Like, obviously there was abolitionist movements in other countries, but I think it was all like legislative for the most part. I'm sure a history buff will be wagging their finger at the radio right now, but yeah, we had, as the phrase goes, like brothers fighting brothers, cousins fighting like fathers and sons, shedding each other's blood. You can call it a states' right issue, but it was about slavery. And yes, we have a long way to go in race relations, and it bears being stated, frankly, we have come an incredibly long way in that regard as well, starting with this idea that it was worth our lives and our blood to make it right.
And people forget that so many of the founders, although they were working within a system that maybe didn't allow them, or they didn't have the power to, at the time, abolish slavery, so many of them wanted to, that it was something that was debated at the foundation of the country. And it should be noted that John Adams did not own slaves, that his wife was an abolitionist, that Betsy Ross, who made the most ass-kicking flag that ever existed, that we have hanging up out front, was an abolitionist. So even years prior to the actual abolition of slavery, it was very important to many of the founders of this nation that this be ended. And then we look to the foundation of the Republican Party and Abraham Lincoln. And something that always stuck with me, I understand there are a lot of people who are, pro states' rights, who have a lot to say negatively about Abraham Lincoln. Mm-hmm. But we should note two things. One, individual rights trump states' rights. We should have, prioritized individuals who were being enslaved. That's a huge stain on our country. We have to acknowledge that. But another thing is that in his Emancipation Proclamation, to Hannah's point about brothers, cousins, people all over this country, young men shedding their blood over this fight, one of the things he mentioned in the Emancipation Proclamation is that if we abolish this, all of these people on both sides will not have died in vain. If all these people died and we just go back to the evil that we were doing, what was it all for? Mm-hmm. So as much as there may have been a different legal way to go about it, I respect the sentiment that led to that Emancipation Proclamation very much.
Yeah, it's an eye-opening thing that you brought up when we were putting this together, and I'm glad you did, and it does make me feel proud. My family wasn't in the country at this point in history, but it's something that I feel like I would have felt strongly about at that time, and it's doesn't erase, like you said, the stain on the history of our country, but it's a good start in trying to make things right. And it's a unique start in trying to make things right in that regard. Yeah,
and it should be noted also that since Hannah's ancestors weren't here and mine weren't either, we didn't enslave anybody, and you can't make us pay reparations. Moving on.
Moving on, indeed. Number 8, we have something that I think is pretty cool. I remember learning about this, I think, in 4th grade. The idea of checks and balances in our government. I don't know how unique it is or isn't, but I feel really comforted, in particular by the Supreme Court.
Yes.
I think it's so neat that you can have, yes, the highest office in the country, the executive branch, the president, like putting out executive orders. And then you have this group of people that I think have done a pretty good job up until this point of putting the Constitution before their party, saying, no, this doesn't fit the Constitution, or absolutely this fits the Constitution. Like somebody's keeping that in check.
Yeah. It's really interesting to think about some recent rulings when you think about, say, like a guy in a girl's locker room. You might feel that a young man who is transitioning has a right to be where he wants to be / she be comfortable. But at the same time, if something you're doing with your freedom hurts somebody else, then the obligation, one of the few roles of government, becomes protecting the rights of the person being hurt. Mm-hmm. So the idea that the Supreme Court ruled, hey, the state at least has the right to decide whether or not this is okay, and not just we're going to blanket like, yeah, this is fine, or no, it's not, was, I think, the correct answer. And the same is true of birthright citizenship. Like, you look at the Constitution, and as it stands now, Trump's executive order was not constitutional. So if you are a principled constitutionalist, you should agree that as things stand now, they did the right thing. And that's not to say that there won't be other legislation or an amendment, and then if there was an amendment, that should be honored. But through an executive action, someone doesn't get to, for lack of a better phrase, trump the Constitution.
Isn't it weird now that he's been president twice? the way that word has changed. We live in a state that has a card game called euchre that I don't think a lot of non-Midwest people have ever even heard of. But it uses that word a lot, and it's more in keeping with like the dictionary definition of the word, like to trump is to like override or like have authority over. And it's weird how
It's weird and
he
funny
has
now.
that name. I digress. Checks and balances, I think, is really cool. I sleep better at night knowing that there are people who are fighting for what is right outside of party lines.
Yeah, definitely.
And that I don't know exactly how unique that is amongst like Western countries, but I think we do it really well, and it makes me feel good.
Yeah, absolutely. Something that is really cool about America is number 7. The fact that we are built on rebellion, which makes me proud to be a badass American.
Yeah, I do think it's really cool. Again, like having lived in Japan, there's an attitude of like, at least from what an outsider is able to observe, an attitude of like a little bit of an apple shiner. Like you do what's right, you're a patriot, you listen to the government, you follow the rules, you stay in line, and that's what makes a good person. And while I think there's a lot of value to that, and they do have a really beautiful culture and it works for them, I personally feel really excited about being in a culture that sort of celebrates a rebel, celebrates somebody who questions authority. I think so much progress and fairness can be made and accomplished through this kind of like, wait a minute, I don't want to do what you told me to do.
Yeah, Hannah and I were just looking at some of the oldest countries in the world. We were weighing everything. And you make a great point about Japan because it's the oldest, like,
continuous monarchy.
Yeah. And to me, you do have to be pretty respectful of your monarchy for that to exist for that long, like unshaken by some sort of rebellion. And I love, Hannah knows this about me, but I love Thomas Jefferson.
Yes, you do.
And my favorite quote from Thomas Jefferson is that the tree of liberty is thirsty. And he suggested that every 20 years, that thirsty tree of liberty needed to be quenched with the blood of patriots and tyrants.
Damn.
So he wanted this shakeup every 20 years. And I always look back and think, if we tarred and feathered our legislature, our president every 20 years when they got too big for their britches, what would this country look like? I think it would look a lot better than it does today. So I feel like having that spirit of fuck around and find out, of you work for me.
Yeah, this does harken back to some things like further back on our list. Yeah, like the fuck around and find out, the rugged individualism. But yeah, there is something so valuable about challenging authority and challenging like, oh, hey, speaking of this, I had a job a while ago with a boss that absolutely hated me, and it made no real secret about it. I've never experienced an employment situation like that before. But in my performance review at this job, she told me that, she had some critiques, and then her compliment for me was that I challenged the status quo. And I think she meant it as a backhanded compliment. And I'm pretty sure she meant to tell me that I was troublesome and didn't fall in line. And she probably hated that about me. But I took a lot of pride in it because I think it's exactly what we're saying here. It's like, yeah, I'm going to challenge the status quo. How do you make a system better? How do you make a company better? How do you make a country better? If you're not willing to go your own way and figure out what is best at any given time instead of relying on what we've always done.
Exactly. And I feel like having that spirit, not everybody who's an American has it, but I feel like it's a very American thing. If you're brought up with the stories of how this country was formed, to just have that kind of flowing in your veins. And I'm proud of Hannah for challenging the status quo.
I'm proud of all of us for challenging the status quo everywhere. Like, that's how we get better. Iron sharpens iron.
Amen. So number 6, another of my favorites. We live in and participate in a market-based economy in this country. Is it pure capitalism? No. And that's the problem. But the reason that we do so much better than so many other countries in the world is simply that we actually have an economy that's based on growth, that's based on voluntary exchange, and really so many of the systems within this country that are socialist, that we have social programs, they wouldn't be able to exist really if we didn't have this market-based economy for it to really take from. I'm not somebody who appreciates the social programs or think that they're efficient or effective for people. But for all of the socialists that do love them and think that they're the best option, I feel like there's a failure to realize where all this money comes from. And that without this, you wouldn't really have anything to go on. I'll tell you a story about a billboard I saw, because we do have a Senate candidate in Michigan who wants Medicare for all. The billboard warned that AI kills jobs, and it said, pass Medicare for all before it's too late. And my thought is, okay, let's say for just a moment that that AI takes all of our jobs. How do we pay for Medicare for all if we don't have any tax revenue?
Yeah, because on the surface, that message doesn't seem like it has, the first part doesn't have much to do with the second part. AI taking jobs versus Medicare for all before it's too late. You're kind of pointing out the quiet thing that you, as a socialist, shouldn't be.
Yeah. And I think about F.A. Hayek, who's one of the most brilliant economists in the history of the study of economics. And he used to say that communism was really something that didn't exist. Like that basically it was something that was maybe tried, and then fascism was what came about when this dream of communism failed, because fascism is really a mixed economy. You do have private companies that are sort of fueling the machine of everything that is taking care of the entire country. And to me, like, even though people don't talk about it this way, Hong Kong fueling the rest of China is a great example of that. And I feel like it was, like everyone says, it's a communist country and it's called the Communist Party of China. But really, could it exist without all of the industry coming out of Hong Kong? And I don't think it could. Without, like, if they got really to a desperate place, would they have to conquer other things to fuel that? Mm-hmm. And that becomes very interesting. So I'm proud that even though, again, just like you said of the healthcare system, our economy is far from perfect, and we could make all kinds of reforms, dial government back in a way that I think would not only improve the lives of Americans, but make us all wealthier. I do think I'm still grateful that we have voluntary exchange, that we have choices, that we get to start businesses and participate in the economy in a way that, unfortunately, other countries aren't even allowed to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's one of those things that you don't even realize unless you spent time somewhere else, how much choice and option we really do have.
Yes.
And that's a luxury that is easy to forget in the day-to-day.
All right. Number 5.
Number 5, I think, even though we both agree on it, was my suggestion. I think it's really cool that we have states' rights set up the way we do. And Ash kind of talked about this when we were getting into the fight to end slavery in our country. And a lot of people, how they want to say that the Civil War was about states' rights when it wasn't. That being said, I do think that the idea that states' rights are held almost the most sacred in our country, they're only surpassed by the rights of the individual, which is why we had a civil war. But I do think it's super cool. Like, for instance, in our state, the majority of people decided that marijuana was not a problem. So in Michigan, you can do what you fucking want in terms of marijuana. And you see this, all across the 50 states. Somebody described it to me one time as a 50-part parallel experiment. So every state kind of like trying to figure out what works best for them and their people, and they're getting 50 different results. And as an American citizen, you can kind of sit back and look at how everything's going in these 50 parallel environments and decide what fits your values the best. And I don't know of any other place where you have 50 options like that. Now, realistically, I realize most people can't pick up and move whenever a state law changes. And you hear that kind of conversation a lot when like people are talking about rights to choose and things like that. There are limits of reality, but generally, in terms of what you're free to do, you have your 50 place pick.
And it's kind of interesting because you can look at economic freedom scales for countries in the world, but you can do that, as Hannah points out, within your own country. Mm-hmm. So something that we look at if we ever consider leaving Michigan is who doesn't have income tax. We might look at who doesn't have property tax. We look at who has constitutional carry. And to me, all of these things are kind of interesting because under the umbrella of individual rights, I don't feel like any gun law is constitutional. Mm-hmm. Like I really, I feel like if we took a close look at that, the Supreme Court, if it went to the Supreme Court, would have to strike down some of these gun laws. Mm-hmm. And they have in some cases. In the state of Michigan recently, there was something they were calling a permission slip for concealed carry permits. And Michigan was among a few states, but it was struck down just a couple weeks ago by the Supreme Court. So the idea that your state can give you more liberty than another state is very interesting, but then there may be some cases where checks and balances comes into play and your individual rights will trump what your state has said about something. So there's always a sort of dance between the, federal, state, and individual rights. However, there's some really great examples of states protecting rights. When the federal government or an executive order, for example, tries to overstep, you might have a state attorney general sue on behalf of your state and protect you from an executive action that never should have come down.
The fact that we have, one body of population, we have one constitution, we have one federal government, and we have 50 different environments where those things are being decided upon and 50 different outcomes of what it looks like to live under that one government or that one constitution. And there are still people who don't find their exact perfect fit. Shows you how many ways you can live under this one living document, this one federal umbrella. There are a million ways it could be done. And they're changing all the time, and the people are influencing it in different ways all the time. And it is like an endless variety of a way to live your American dream. And I think that's just super cool.
And to talk about balance and things, the idea that the Constitution itself within the Bill of Rights, any rights not allocated, like by the list we just came up with, that's designed to limit the federal government from overstepping, is now allocated to the state. And there's good and bad in it. And I feel like the Civil War was a great example.
Yeah, for sure. All right, let's talk about number 4.
Number 4, again, something that I'm really proud of is that America is not a democracy. The founders intended to protect the minority, and many of them considered democracy a tyranny of the majority. If you had pure democracy where majority vote ruled, you may never have gotten out from under slavery. You may never have really been able to make different decisions. Like, how many people really fight the status quo?
You'd be still living under like Jim Crow laws.
Exactly. So the idea that you have a republic and that the minority voice still matters, that you still get to elect a representative from your district that may be very different from the rest of your state even, is unique to the American experiment and something that I think is to be cherished and fought for.
Something that it's a quote I heard through you, so I'll let you accredit it to whoever originally said it, but something that like really made it make sense to me as a layperson is that pure democracy is two wolves and a sheep voting on what to have for lunch. So the rights of the sheep are obviously completely forfeit because it's in the minority. And don't you want to live in a country where that sheep has a voice the way the wolves have a voice as well?
And something that's very like indicative of the American spirit is this idea that because we can make our arguments to our communities, the sheep might give a more eloquent speech to the rest of that community that changes the game. The minority can be listened to and change the status quo in a way that in a democratic society, you may never even have an opportunity. It's just, we called for a vote. Everybody said, hey, let's eat the sheep. And that's the end of the story. So I feel like we would not have had a civil rights movement in a democracy.
Wouldn't have had a suffragette movement.
And to me, the great irony is that you might notice coming out of both the media and the Democratic Party, they said like Trump, for example, was a threat to democracy. And I feel like in so doing, they're trying to take back the language and say that this is a democratic country. And they want to get rid of like the electoral college. They want the majority to rule. They want to change our system in a way that's sneaky. Mm-hmm. And they're called the Democratic Party for a reason. They didn't want necessarily, as those changes came about, for them to change. Like the South wanted to keep slavery. The South wanted to keep Jim Crow. The South wanted to keep segregation.
So basically the South is the... No, I'm kidding.
The South is the problem. But the idea that because we are a mixed society, we had different views up north, that through our power of voting through the Electoral College, we could make changes to the whole of American society to our betterment and the betterment of, let's say, Black Americans. That's very powerful, and that's something that we should celebrate.
All right, guys, we're in the top 3. We'll try to wrap this up for you. Number 3, freedom of speech.
Fuck Trump.
Fuck Trump. Indeed.
Fuck Democrats. Fuck Nazis.
I think the fact that this podcast exists owes its existence to freedom of speech. The fact that we can criticize our government without fear of retribution. The fact that if we don't like something, we can call it out. We can work for a change. We're not punished for what we say. And when we see modern Western countries like England putting people in jail
for memes
and social media posts, I feel incredibly grateful that I'm allowed to run my mouth in whichever way I see fit.
Yeah, and this is what's interesting to me. Although I don't like people necessarily who say like terrible things about Jewish people, the fact that in France you can be fined or imprisoned for like anti-Semitism is really strange to me. It's not something we as people we should be doing. Like people should get to say what they want. Like hate speech is free speech, and the same is true of like I believe the actress Brigitte Bardot was jailed multiple times for saying nasty things about Islam in France. And it's just like, although, I think with the way things are changing, I don't necessarily blame her. The idea that she got imprisoned for doing it, it seems like a lot.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. And it's a scary, future crime thing that you could be put in prison for what you speak. I'm glad that is one of the sacred rights that this country works hard to protect and defends all the time in the courts.
And really, without number 3, the freedom of speech, we don't get the power of this republic. You know, that minority voice is what's so important. How do you even change an idea if you can only hear the status quo?
Yeah. Okay. Appropriately, number 2 is our much beloved Second Amendment, the right to bear arms.
It's been said by many freedom-loving people, even someone like Margaret Thatcher, about our American Second Amendment: if you lose the second, you lose the first. So the thing that most protects our rights is the fact that we can protect ourselves from the government. The fact that we can hang on to these guns is something that I think is exemplified more by the loss of them than by anything else. Because we can look at the Holocaust, for example, and the first thing that was done before all of these laws were imposed, keeping down Jewish businesses, you name it, was that guns were taken from private citizens. And in order to protect yourself, you need to have a weapon, which is why when people revolted, one of the things that they had to do was find weapons. So the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising, any other actual armed rebellion that you saw, you needed a weapon to stand up to people who had that as an equalizer.
Yeah, I know it's like sort of like a thought experiment, hypothetical, but we've all heard that quote about like how you could never have a land invasion of the United States because every redneck with a gun would be burrowed into the hills so deep. Like you could never get through the gauntlet of an American subdivision street without getting gunned down as an invader. I think that is, obviously it's important to bear arms to protect yourself against your government. It's just as, if not more so important, to keep your right to bear arms against other governments outside of our country. I feel like, yes, there are plenty of people with bad intentions or mental illness who get their hands on guns, and we see the unfortunate consequences all the time. Not trying to say that's not an issue in our country. It is. But the reason we have the freedoms we have, the reason we can say whatever we want, to your point, the reason no one can do a land invasion of this country ever, and the reason our government can't take our guns from us and make us vulnerable is because of the Second Amendment.
Exactly.
From my cold, dead hands.
Exactly. Unfortunately, we just saw that a bunch of Americans were killed very recently, this week, in fact, because Massachusetts actually, they had a gun grab. And there was a lot of exchange of fire between Americans and the Massachusetts National Guard. But we have to look at things like Hurricane Katrina, wherein the National Guard, for Louisiana, who has also sworn an oath to the Constitution, refused, even under, extreme circumstances, to take anyone's guns. And that's, oddly, it's an example of states' rights, like how behavior in a different state can be totally different. But I do think Hannah's got a great point. If another country would think twice about invading you because of a right you have, that is more powerful than even your military.
Yeah, we have the most, or maybe second most, depending how you want to look at it, capable and imposing military on the planet. And even if we didn't, good luck walking down an American street with bad intentions from a foreign country.
I've seen like a little video wherein the alarm or the Simply Safe goes off downstairs, and this woman goes to her gun safe and she's just dancing at the opportunity that she's waited for this whole time to finally shoot somebody in her foyer. And I feel like there would be Americans who've been practicing for years for someone to just be on their property.
Absolutely.
So, they're ready for anything. And the Second Amendment, that's what it is. It's like, never raise your gun at another human unless you intend to shoot them, but you've prepped for this. You have this right for a reason. Protect yourself.
Yep. Yeah, let's hope you never have to use it. Like, that should always be, like, you don't want to take like the idea of removing a human life lightly. It's not a joke. It's not as much as we might joke about it like right now. It's a huge and heavy responsibility. And the hope is that you never have to do that. But it feels like a God-given right.
Yeah, the Florida mom last week who protected her children when a home invader came in.
Absolutely.
That's her right as a mother, as an American, and God bless her.
As a creature on this earth, to defend your children, that's the right of every living thing.
Amen. And
grand finale, guys. The number one thing we love about the United States of America. I'll give this to Ash.
It's abused. It's not used. But by God, is it perfect, and should it be the Constitution of the United States of America?
This document is the source of so much scrutiny and study and interpretation and debate and argument. But it's an amazing piece of work that many countries have a constitution. It's not unique to ours that we have one. But Ash, you brought up the point that what is unique about ours is that it is an active protection of people like you and me against our federal government. It tells you you can come this far and no further.
And it's very much an example of the situation that the founders were in when they wrote it. They were declaring independence from a tyrannical government. So the last thing they would want to do is create another one. So the entire Constitution is built to rein in government and give as many rights to the individual, the states, as possible. Checks and balances are built in to keep any part of the government from gaining too much power over another part of the government or over individuals. And what is really amazing about it is the foresight of so much of it. So few amendments have had to be added. And a lot of times, to me, many laws that are passed or many amendments that are made kind of go without saying in the Constitution. It's more like a nod to what's already there than anything else. To me, the fact that there are states in this country, Florida, for example, that are passing laws banning Sharia is kind of laughable because the Constitution itself doesn't allow for so many parts of Sharia law. Mm-hmm. If you're going to try to force me, a female individual, into like a burqa, say, like you're already just like stepping on so many of my individual rights that are, part of the Bill of Rights. It really isn't necessary to pass such a law. Mm-hmm. All we really needed to do to create, a really perfect union where individual rights are respected, or pay attention to the document that's already there. And I think the problem in most of the country is that we're stepping on the Constitution instead of utilizing it. Mm-hmm. So gun laws, for example. Second Amendment says that our right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Well, if I have to get a permission slip from the state of Michigan, the Supreme Court says you're infringing on Ash's right to keep and bear arms by creating a permission slip. You can't do that. Mm-hmm. And so that's a great example of both the document itself being something that protects my rights and the Supreme Court's checks and balances saying to our legislature, or in this case, our executive branch of Michigan, hey, step off.
Yeah, and really, you bring up a good point earlier. The Second Amendment, obviously, freedom of speech can be directly related to the Constitution, but really, when you think about it one way or the other, everything on this list, and probably everything on everybody's list, if they were to make one like this, can all be traced back to the Constitution, and the fact that our life, our liberty, and our pursuit of happiness are defended to the foundation stone of what it means to live here. And honestly, like, there's really not that much else that needs to be said. If we had said the Constitution was our list, it wouldn't have made for a very interesting episode, but it would have covered everything we said today.
And I am so grateful that our founders created an environment where peanut butter could be invented.
Yeah, and where Whitney Houston is allowed to pursue a career of remarkable world-renowned stardom, and Jeff Bezos can bring my dog treats to my front door.
Amen.
Girls can play beach volleyball in Speedo bikinis.
And really, like, if we hearken this all back to Whitney, she has the right to be a free American with her hair back in, like, this cute little style, in her windbreaking clothes, in the Super Bowl, and sing with the most beautiful voice in the world. So I'd really like to end the episode with a clip of Whitney Houston singing the national anthem, just to honor America's 250th birthday.
If you've made it this far, thank you so much for listening. I would like to say one more thing. Like,
sure.
As you listen to Whitney belt out the beautiful essence of what it means to live here, I want to just point out that if you were to make your own list of your top 25 things you love about this country, it might be completely different than the list we just talked about. In fact, the things we talked about might wind up on a list of things you hate about this country. Mm-hmm. But the unspoken number one, or tied to number one thing for me, is that everybody who makes a list would have a unique list. And isn't that what it means to be American? This country means something different to everybody. And we're in a space where that's allowed to be true.
Yes, and if you have a favorite thing about being an American, about America itself, go ahead and send it to us, either in the comment section, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or send it to us via email at redwhiteandby@gmail.com.
All right, we'll see you guys in a few weeks. Thanks so much.
Thanks for listening.
Bye.